Let me get you. Are you here?
Here I am.
Cool. Where's your video?
Let's see.
You got to turn it on.
Oh,
Wait, now I can do it from here. Oh, you got it.
I
Okay.
got it.
Hi.
Here we are. Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good, all things considered. How about you?
Exactly the same answer. You
I
know,
see you have a guitar in your hand.
am I playing or not? I didn't know.
You can if you want to, but that's
We can
not
use it as a prop.
doing that.
Okay.
But you know, we might end up doing it this time.
Okay. And how long?
We go about an hour. You'll be surprised at how quickly an hour goes, especially with somebody that has stories to tell.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I could help. Oh my God. Is that?
It's just the two of us. Everybody else won't join until 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But it is recording now. So,
Okay, cool.
you know, it becomes part of the video.
Well, what's kind of cool about taping and then putting it up is not everybody can be at the same place at the same time. People will watch things.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the things I've learned about the live streaming is it's cool to do that, but you also need to archive it because over the course of a week, you'll get twice as many views.
Exactly. And, you know, I found that even with the live streams I was doing at the club, you know, even though for most people that would follow music, 10 o'clock wasn't that late.
Mm-hmm.
But my friends in New York, it was a little bit later for them. And so it was a little tougher. But generally, you know, I ended up building the most views afterwards in the replays. You know?
Right.
And so with this, at this point, I'm not even going live to either YouTube or Facebook. I'm doing live only on the Zoom portion and then uploading it to all of the Facebook pages and to the Continental Club YouTube page.
Smart. That's smart.
And this is the 4th Continental Confidential Live.
Right on. Who are the other 3?
The very first one was Earl Pool Ball. Oh my God, what a hoot that was.
Oh my God.
And then the second one was supposed to be Earl and Dallas and Red, but Red had to cancel out of it because his brother-in-law had passed away from COVID.
I heard about that.
And so he and Kathleen were actually going to be on their way to the funeral at the time we were doing the live.
Yeah.
So it was just me and Dallas and Earl. But we are going to reschedule Red for another date.
Red has some stories.
Was Kathy Murray and Bill Jones.
Oh.
And Bill is going to come back at the end of October, and we're going to do a Halloween special with his monsters. Because you know he does that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So it used to be that he would come and Kathy would play a lot around Halloween so that Bill could bring in all of his monsters and set them up on stage. And so we're going to do a Halloween special.
Nice.
So if you've got any kind of a good song for Halloween, some kind of Escape from Monster Island.
October, for heaven's sakes.
You should be a drop-in that day.
I should be a drop-in that day. Absolutely.
I'll send you an invitation. It'll be the last Wednesday in October.
I'm all about reminders.
Yeah. It's gotten so that me too.
Oh my God. I was almost getting worried about it. And then I talked to my older brother. He's a doctor. And he was like, you'll find when you get into your 60s, memory turns a little elastic. It's like, that's a kind way of putting it, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I know that, you know, I've always been pretty big on this. anyways, and
Yeah.
now it's become essential.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard.
Okay, we've got somebody that's ready to join us, Alan Fincher.
Oh, Alan
I'll let
Fincher.
Alan in, and he will be able to use the chat, but not the microphone.
Right on. Hey, Alan Fincher.
Got no response from him yet.
He's busy. He's usually cooking things in his kitchen or.
Oh, actually, let me make sure that I've got it on.
Are you guys talking about me, Jon Dee?
We are, Alan.
We are, Alan. I'm being a bad person right now, but I'm driving, and I had to get you set up while I was driving. But now I am hands-free. I'm focusing on the road. I am gonna fill my ears with that, which is Jon Dee, safely.
It might just be a lot of talk today, Alan.
You know what? That is that which is Jon Dee. You can do whatever you want.
And Alan, I'm actually going to put you on mute, so you'll be able to hear us, but you won't be able to hear us.
Fantastic. I'll stop talking right now, and you can mute me also.
Alan.
Okay. So, we're going to wait a couple of minutes to let people get in before we really start here.
Yeah.
But so now tell me, you've been doing quite a few of the live streams on Facebook.
Yeah.
They've been going pretty well.
Yeah, it's funny. In the first flush of the pandemic, everybody wanted to do live streams, and it seemed really like the only thing to do. And but the blush went off that rose pretty quickly because, it's endearing and adorable to watch a musician on his sofa play songs and talk to you.
Right.
But it's not. Live streaming is neither. It is neither really live nor is it streaming.
Right.
So what I've been doing for the last month, which has been really cool, is I've been doing these curated Zoom shows with only 10 people.
Uh-huh.
And each person gets 2 requests. Pay what you want, and it's only those 10 people, and then I can have them all on screen, and we can talk in between songs, and everybody gets a request, which, as you know, never happens at my show. And so we've done 3. They've all sold out, and the next 2 have already sold out. And it's not like a big cash cow or anything, but it brings back a little bit of the intimacy, because I thrive off of that, like talking to the people. And so I found that to be like a real kind of game changer for me. I'm probably shouldn't say this on camera, but I'm going to anyway. I'm considering doing a very private show for this group of people that all live together. So they're a pod basically, but it's 9 people. And I've laid out this list of ground rules because I'm immunosuppressed. I can't afford to take chances. But a swimming pool, them at one end of the swimming pool, me at the other end, fans blowing from behind me that way. And I don't shake hands, don't touch anybody. We can talk, we do whatever. I'll play songs, we'll have a good time. But it's like people are kind of like, really? You're gonna be that? I'm like, I have to, I don't know, Dianne, because it's like between William and I are both immunosuppressed, so we have to be really, really careful. And we don't leave the house. I mean, everything is delivered. William has to go to class, but it's outdoors.
Mhm.
But I had to go to CVS on Saturday night, and I crossed South Congress at about 8, and it was just this river of humanity, and like a few masks, but hardly any,
Right.
and gaggles of young people, just like as though nothing was going on. And I just wonder, well, am I like the last crazy holdout that's like, that Japanese soldier on the island in the Pacific?
There are a few of us, but not very many. My friend Barbara and I, we both have autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
And so because of my age and my weight and autoimmune, it puts me at a much higher risk.
Oh no, the morbidity makes all the difference in the world. Like, I don't have a spleen. And so my body's, like, the chances of me having a cytokine storm is about twice what a normal person would have.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I know that, I've been very careful. There have been 3 people inside my house since March 6th.
That we have 3 people that are outside of our family, but in our pod. And we see them pretty regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week, because I figured out right away that I was not cut out to just be by myself all the time. I like to think that I'm a loner, and I'm not antisocial, but I'm asocial, and I'm an introvert. And it's like, yeah, kinda, until you have to, and then you don't like it.
2 of my best friends are absolutely pissed off because I am so completely content.
Yeah.
To me, this is a dream.
See, there's part of me that's like, wow, I could really go for this. But then I have my pandemic meltdown, and it's like, I just want to go to a restaurant.
I go shopping usually late night at Randall's on Ben White.
Yeah.
Once every 10 days to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then outside of that, I do go to Walmart 3 days a week because I feed a feral cat there. But he lives in the garden center, and we feed him outside the exit door. So while I'm going to Walmart, I am nowhere near people. I don't have to interact with anybody except the cat.
Yeah.
So it works out fine for me because it gets me out of the house, and yet I don't have to deal with humanity at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet.
Jeff, I'm going to take you off video.
Oh, okay.
I've opened up the chat room. I have everybody on mute and off video. And you're welcome to use the chat room if you have questions. And, just jump in if you want. We're glad to have you here. And we have Alan Fincher, and we have Dave, and we have Jeff Moore. Welcome, guys.
Hey, guys. Glad you're in the house.
So what Jon Dee and I have been talking about was, how we're kind of dealing with the current virus situation. And so, it's a struggle for some people, and some people act like there's nothing going on at all.
I don't want to be the crazy kook holed up in his house,
Right.
But at the same time, it's like when it started, like my sister got it, and she is in really good health, and she's a nurse and everything, but it laid her low. I mean, it was rough, and she didn't have to be hospitalized or anything, but it's like when people start getting it.
Right.
that are younger than you and in better shape than you,
Uh-huh.
and it lays them out. It's like, I just, it's not safe yet. It's just not safe yet. For, for geezers like me anyway, it's not safe yet.
Yeah, it's not safe for me, and I'm okay with that. It's like I said, I'm pretty content. Although, it's like every once in a while a video will pop up, like last night, a video of Hay Bale with Sarah Gale Meach sitting in as their guest.
Oh.
And it's like, I could have cried because I missed my Sunday nights so much.
Yeah.
And that it was one with Sarah Gale, of course, made me even more nostalgic for it. And so it's like, I will have those moments when I go, oh my God, my life, what's happened to my life? And then I go, oh, well, hopefully it'll be back.
Here's the thing is, and this sounds overly weighty or grave or whatever, but it's just true, which is, after the Civil War, after World War I, after World War II, with the Holocaust, after the Twin Towers, people still sang and danced and laughed.
Right.
Now, were things the same after World War I? No way.
Yeah.
Were things the same after World War II? Absolutely not. Were they the same after the Holocaust? Hell no. Were they the same after the Twin Towers? We're still taking our shoes off before we get on an airplane.
Right.
Yep. When back in the days when we used to fly. So there's not going to be any going back to what it used to be. But we will laugh and we will sing and we will dance. It will happen.
Right.
History has shown us that.
Did you by any chance, I don't know, do you see the chats or not? No?
I can just see the first line of the chats.
Okay, well, Dave said, it's definitely a struggle and agree. It's near impossible being away from normal life and people. If this thing continues for an extended period of time, how do you see the music industry changing? I miss live music. And Jon Dee said, I will not dance.
Oh, I saw all that one because I only can see one line and I knew right away, that's the denier. That's Jon Denier.
We knew that, John.
Yeah, I know that, John. That's a damn good question. Everyone is scrambling, trying to figure out alternative ways. And I was talking with Dianne a little bit before, in the first flush of the pandemic, there was like all of this live streaming going on. And, after a couple of weeks of that, it was endearing. And after that, it was sort of adorable. And then after that, it was like, oh my God, there he is on the floral couch. Oh, look, there's the dog. Yes, isn't this adorable? And it just started to feel hollow and made me too sad to do it because it wasn't like playing for people. So one of the things that I've done that has really helped that a lot is I've been doing these 10-person Zoom shows, and they sell out really quickly. Each person gets to request 2 songs, and by keeping the audience at 10 and doing it on Zoom, I can actually talk back and forth with people, and that makes it feel more live. Now, it's not live, not really, but it's as close to live as we're going to get right now, And for guys like me, they're in a high risk group. Pick a group. I'm in the high risk group. I just can't afford to take any chances. So it's, hey, Kristen, I can't read your comment, but that's Alan Fincher's wife. I love her. She's awesome. They have a daughter. They have a daughter named Luella who is adorable. So anyway, that's one of the ways around it. I think what you and I were talking about before about socially distanced gigs, I think that can work. I'm not going to feel right about it until there's a proven vaccine.
Right.
You know, and I mean proven, not just that it's effective, but that it doesn't kill you a year later, you know. Right. So I think that it might be like getting into Barton Springs. We might have to just do it gradually, you know. But in the meantime, stuff like this really, really helps, you know, because okay, so you were talking about how you had that moment watching that video.
Right.
Okay, so I was just out on the porch doing something last week or whenever it was at night, and Gretchen comes out the door and says, come on, put your shoes on, we got to go. And I'm like, where are we going? And she said, just go. And so we drove down to the Continental, and they had done the red alert.
Yes.
And we pulled up in front, and I just started tearing up.
Yep.
Because, you know, I played there when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, and I played there every Wednesday for 23 years.
Yeah.
It's more than a club.
Right.
You know,
right.
It is my spiritual home, you know, and to sit out front and see it all lit up like that and see those doors and know that I could not walk through them was deeply moving in a way that I'm not sure I'm explaining very well, but it was like, man, so much of my life has happened inside that place.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I've gotten to go everywhere and do all kinds of great things and meet really fun people and everything, but it always comes back to Wednesday night. Always. I go on the road, I have a great tour Wednesday nights when I come back. Go on the road, barely make it back. Go on, have a heart attack and die, come back to the Continental. You know?
Absolutely.
It's just how I am.
Right.
So
so fortunate that you are not the only one that feels that way. You know, we have several residency people that have been playing there almost their whole lives. You know, well, yeah. Peterson brothers, they've been playing there already half their lives.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Exactly.
They were 12 and 13 when they started playing at the club.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, there's just, it's hard to explain, but rolling through that back door with a guitar on your back, and the show's about to start, there's no feeling on earth like that to me, you know?
And that's so funny because that is the memory I have of the very first time I ever met you. I was working the back door, of course, and you came in and you were wearing your brown fedora.
Yeah.
And you came in and my first thought was, oh, this is Jon Dee Graham. Because of course I knew J.D. Foster and I knew Alejandro and I knew all these other people that you had been associated with over the years and Jesse Sublett, but I had never met you before. And
I was the dude in the shadows.
I still have that memory of the first time you came in to play a show at the Continental Club after I started working there.
Man, and you know what? I still get that feeling when I walk into that back door. You know, that I miss it so badly. Yeah. You know, but things will change.
They will. And let me just read you some of what we've got here.
Yeah.
Kristen said Alan's better half. I
No
miss
doubt
live
there.
music too so much, and the Continental Club in particular. How is CC doing? All the news of venues closing worries me. We think you're pretty adorable too. I think that was for you, maybe.
No, I think that was you.
Actually, the one thing I know for sure is that at whatever point this is all over, Steve will still have the Continental Club. Whether we'll still have the gallery, whether we'll still have Sea Boys, whether we'll still have the Houston spaces, I don't know.
Yeah.
What I do know is the Continental Club's not going anywhere because Steve owns it.
Yeah.
He owns the building, he owns the land that it sits on, he owns the business. It's not going anywhere. He will do whatever he needs to do to make sure that the Continental Club stays. And I know he's working hard to make sure that all three venues remain as we've known them. Whether that's going to be possible over the long haul, anybody's guess.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But no worry about the Continental Club. We're not going anywhere. It's going to be tough, but we're going to be hanging in.
It's so beautiful because Steve actually called me before he was heading out to Houston for the funeral.
Yeah.
And he was just calling to touch base.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was telling him I'm sorry for his loss. And he was like, oh, well, it was time. And you know how he is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get a phone call from Steve, it's almost like God calling. You
right.
know, it's like, I don't know if I should answer this or not. But we were talking, and I wasn't going to ask him. I just was like, yeah, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he's like, well, you're a scrapper. You'll make it. You'll do fine. And then he said, and in case you're wondering, so will we.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know what's going to happen to everything else. He goes, but when it's safe for you to come back to Wednesday nights, we will be there and it will be open.
Right.
And that's like a big statement coming from him.
Right. Yeah.
And that was like, I felt a little weight lift, I kind of know the status of the place and of Steve and all of that, but in these weird and difficult times, it's like my darker angels get hold of me, and it's like, well, what if the Continental goes? What then?
Right.
I'm pouring myself into art, and I'm reading children's books online every day at noon. I did not today or yesterday because I had some work I had to do, but I'm just trying to do as much as I can for as many as I can, and still have enough money coming in, that we're not in any danger, and we have it so much better than most,
Yes.
So many have lost everything, and then,
and more will.
And more will. And just, these are strange and frightening times, but it's like, we're okay. And my family is okay. You're okay.
Yeah.
The Continental Club is not going anywhere.
Right.
And it's like, I think I've already proven that I'm an enduring son of a bitch. I can endure a lot. And so.
And you will be on that stage again.
Oh man, you're going to make me cry, Diane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say one thing about Steve is that, for him, financially, it would have been tough to open even when they were allowing us to open at, 25% or 50% or whatever was the last amount.
Which was BS anyway.
Of course, it was ridiculous. And, you know, with our capacity being so low to begin with, what, we could let in 25 people, and I would assume that they're counting staff too. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'd let in 20 people. Where is that making any money for anybody?
That's not, that's not making any money for anyone.
No, it doesn't even pay to have the doors open at that point.
Yeah.
And so, but rather than being based on a financial decision, Steve based it solely on protecting his staff, his musicians, and his clientele. That was it. Those were his only considerations, and they still are.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
He really is. So, Jon Dee.
Yes.
Let's talk about some other stuff.
All right.
Tell me about your very first gig.
Well, technically, my very first gig was at the United Methodist Church in Camado Valley, Texas. I had been taking piano lessons starting at the age of 10 from the Baptist minister's wife, and had gotten, I mean, I could read a little music and I could play big block chords and stuff. And so then the pianist at the Methodist church died because she was like 1,000 years old. And in a ranching community of less than 200 people, the talent pool is pretty shallow.
Right.
And so they were like, well, we need a piano player. How about you, kid? And so I played piano every Sunday at the Methodist church from the age of 12 until about 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you pretty good by the time you stopped?
No, I never got any better. And also, I still hate it today. First thing that happened when I sit down at a piano is I just start playing big block Protestant chords. C, 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 G, G, G. Bring in the sheaves, bring in the sheaves.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and in fact, if you listen to that song, Bobby Dunbar on Garage Sale, that's me playing piano. And you can completely hear that it's a Methodist kid playing piano. So that was my first gig. Now, my first paying gig was, Camado Valley was a ranching farming community in the middle of the desert that was bisected by the Rio Grande. And like, you drive to the end of the United States, so there's no more United States, and you make a left and you go another 30 miles. And that's where I grew up. And it's, you know, like I said, I mean, it's a pretty small community. Well, one day, these two young fellas showed up in town and rented a trailer house out on somebody's land. And turns out that they were two guitar players that played country music. They wanted to have a band. And I had borrowed a bass from someone. And so I started playing bass with them at the local roadhouse when I was 13. And we played about 6 shows, and it was all covers and the most classic, like we did Swinging Doors, There Stands the Glass, few Gary Stewart numbers, you know, She's Feeling Single, He's Drinking Doubles, you know, I Got This Drinking Thing. Anyway, it was fantastic for a 13-year-old, you know, and these guys were young and kind of dangerous and exciting, and they both played Fenders. One had a Fender acoustic, and the other one had a Tele, and it was just, it was the very thing. I think I made like $20 or something, and I was like, holy Moses, I'd have to throw hay for half a day to make this much. So.
And how old were you?
13. And my mom was sort of okay with it. My dad was really not down with it at all, but he saw that it was not, you got to pick your battles, and he knew he wasn't going to win that one. So anyway, one day, not long after, we played like 5, maybe 6 gigs. U.S. Marshals showed up at their trailer house and took them away in cuffs, because it turns out that they had embezzled a whole bunch of money from the Army PX in Fort Hood, and then just driven this car as far as they could, which was to the border, and stashed the money in their mattress and tried to play some gigs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm like, wait, that was my band. You're taking my band to jail.
And so your introduction to the music business.
Exactly. And you know what? It pretty much hasn't changed since then.
Exactly.
I mean, it's kind of the same way. It was a pretty accurate introduction. So much fun.
And
then,
so you moved to Austin to go to college.
Yeah.
To be an attorney.
Well, technically, here's the deal. There is there's an honors program at UT called Plan 2, and my older brother went through it, and so I was let in, and William actually went through Plan 2, and I lost you. There you are. William also went through Plan 2. He's in grad school now for architecture. But back then, if you were in Plan 2, there was only 2 directions you could go, pre-law or pre-med. And my brother was already a doctor. So I said, I'll go pre-law. I had no intention of being a lawyer. What I wanted to do was be a writer. And I actually got to take some writing classes that first year with Michael King, and I learned so much. It was joyous. But towards the end of that first year, I started playing with the Skunks. And then we started like getting bigger, and then we started opening for people at the Armadillo and at the old auditorium over here, but I'm still going to classes and stuff. And so then we opened for the road show that was the Joe Ely band opening for the Clash. So it was the Skunks, Joe Ely, and the Clash at the Armadillo. And then afterwards, my very first time, Wayne Nagel came up and said, "Hey kid, follow me, we're going to the Continental Club." And so with Joe Strummer and Mick Jones and Jesse and Wayne and Roger one night, we went down to the Continental Club. I forget who was playing. Everybody's drinking, hanging out, having a good time. Comes 2 a.m., they run everybody out but us, lock the doors, and then we ended up just jamming all night.
Wow.
And so I was actually on stage jamming with Mick Jones, and then he got tired, and so Joe came up and sang a couple of songs, and I played guitar behind Joe, you know, and it was heady stuff. You know, I'm not 19 years old at that point. And so I go back to school because, you know, they opened the doors at sunup and let us out, you know. And it's like, I gotta go to class. And so I went, and it was this big seminar class, you know, with the stadium seating and the podium down front. And I came in through one of the back doors, and I looked around, and then it was like in the movies where the sound just goes shh, and it was instantly quiet. And I went, I don't belong here. And I turned right around and went to the bursar's office and said, I'd like to withdraw. And they were like, well, would you like to speak to a counselor first? No, I just want to withdraw. She's like, do you have any complaints? Or nope, just, this isn't for me. And so the Clash is responsible for kicking my ass out of UT.
So that means that the Clash was responsible for a drastic change for you and for Joe Ely.
Exactly.
Joe Ely changed his whole thing after he had been with the Clash.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, there's different people have different takes on the Clash, and I respect all of them, you know, but they were titans in my book. And just being at that show, but like getting to open for them, and that was like, it was when the Armadillo was, it had morphed into this other thing. And it was like, I remember going out on stage and looking out across that audience, and there was cowboy hats, mohawks, and ponytails. And there was no fighting. There was no bullshit. It was like everything that made Austin, Austin, the hippies, the freaks, the punks, and the cowboys were all there to see this thing.
Right. And
so we played, and we did a good job. We acquitted ourselves well. And then Joe Ely came out and just burned it down. But then there's a break, and the stage is dark. And then, like with no warning, all the lights in the house come on, including on the stage, and they're all up there. And Strummer grabs a mic stand and counts off the song by beating the mic stand on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they went into London Calling. And it was like every molecule in my body exploded, you know? So the night began that way and then ended on that stage behind you there with, you know, drunken teenagers playing with the Clash and with Joe Ely, and how was I ever going to go back to school after that?
Right.
You know, seriously, how's that going to happen? It's just not.
So, Jon Dee, who were some of your earliest influences for music?
Well,
listen to.
Okay, for starters, my mom and dad is Wilma Jean Rodman and Harold Lloyd Graham. Met at a Bob Wills dance in Aspermont, Texas. And so there's always a lot of Bob Wills being played around our house. My dad was a big fan of hard country, but for him, like hard country meant Hank, Merle, you know, E.T., Ernest Tubb. You could not, you know, go wrong there. Music didn't do the same thing for him that it did for me. It was an entertaining by note, you know, it was a side note to who he was and what he did. He didn't think it was, I'm not going to say he didn't think it was important, but he just didn't give it much thought, you know. I mean, he was a hard man that grew up. You know, he was born the official year of the Great Depression, and so he came up hard, you know, and it made a certain kind of man, you know, and he loved me and he did great by me, and I love him, but yeah, music just didn't do anything for him. So now my mom was all over the place. She would try rock and roll, and then she would try the Burt Bacharach instrumental records or 8 tracks, you know. So there was all that going on at the house. Then in high school, all the parties were basically across the border at quinceañeras and the Casino Social. And so you would go and there would be these Mexican bands playing traditional Mexican music, but then also doing phonetically correct English language covers of the day, like Sealed with a Kiss was huge. To the Last Teardrop Falls, of course. What was the other one? Oh, She's About a Mover. Like, you don't even need to know what the words are to that, really.
Right.
You know, she's about to move her. Anyway, it was really, really cool. But then, late at night, if atmospheric conditions were just right, we could get K-Mac and Kiss out of San Antonio. Lou Roney, who, there's a reason why the Sex Pistols didn't play Austin, they played San Antonio. It's because Lou Roney was the first person to play them in the United States.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, that's why they played at Randy's Rodeo instead of here. And like I said, the weather conditions had to be just right. But here's the beautiful thing about K-Mac and Kiss is they were essentially like a proto-metal station. There wasn't a name for it then. They didn't call it heavy metal. But, you know, like UFO was huge on that station. A lot of Robin Trower. I dug all of it. You know, it was just like, it was Bad Company. Oh, my good Lord. They just like, but then in my senior year, which would have been 77, I guess. Yeah. This punk thing started happening. And so I'd be riding around late at night with my friends on these backcountry roads. We'd be trying to dial in K-Mac and Kiss. So they played a Michael Schenker and UFO song, and we were all rocking out to it. And then it kind of morphed into this weird version of that old song Gloria, and there was a chick singing it. And it was like, the hell is this? And then she's just reciting poetry while the band goes nuts. And then they do that thing at the end where Jesus died for someone's sins, but not mine. And I'm like, what just happened? And everybody in the car was like, I don't know. I don't know if I liked that or not. And I'm like, I don't either, but I feel funny. So then he started just mixing it in because he saw no difference between punk rock and hard rock. To him, it was like, it was just all rock.
Uh-huh.
So then they started playing Personality Crisis. And I immediately fell in love with the New York Dolls. And it was like, okay, their guitars, somebody should have tuned them before they gave them to them. But you know what? This is really rock and roll. This is like, it feels like it's about to blow up at any minute. This is rock and roll. So I found out they were going to be on Don Kirshner's rock concert. So I got my friends together. We stayed up till midnight to see Don Kirshner's rock concert because we're going to see the New York Dolls. And the curtains go back and they are all completely in drag. High heels, lipstick, you know, 5 of the ugliest women you would ever imagine. And all of my friends looked at me and got up and walked out. And I'm like, I'm going to listen. And so I did. And from that, a good friend of mine, Chris, and I have broken it down to, you're not really rock and roll unless you've dressed in drag at least once. So those were my influences. I had Tejano music. I had hard country. I had these sort of bizarre instrumental albums. And then I had K-Mac and Kiss out of San Antonio.
Uh-huh.
And so all that, and if you think about it, Diane, it does explain a lot of what goes on in my show.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Yeah.
Okay, so that went on a little longer than I thought it would, but that's the story.
So what song do you wish you had written?
Oh, God, that's such an unfair question. Because there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing is I'll hear a song that I haven't heard in a long time and just go, oh my God, that song is so much better than I remember it being. And to the point where, like, the neighbors across the street were doing something out in the parking lot, and they were listening to oldies. And that song by Loggins and Messina came on. I think it wasn't Loggins and Messina. I forget who it was, but even though we ain't got money, I'm so in love with you, honey. And I just stopped and I started listening. I'm like, this song is perfect. It is a perfectly constructed song, you know?
I think it was a Kenny Loggins song.
It was a Kenny Loggins song.
Messina.
But who had the hit with it? Was it them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to ask that question, you could ask me on any day, and I could tell you 5 that I wish I'd written. Dark Into the Street. Just straight up.
Right.
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Uh-huh.
Mendocino. Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen, Tower of Song. Mm-hmm. And also probably have to say 13 by Alex Chilton. I really wish I'd written that song. It's
you do a great version of it too.
You know what? I love that song so much. Okay, I'll give you a 6th. This is another one that I really wish I'd written, is Good Time Charlie. Good Time Charlie.
Oh, uh-huh.
Oh, such a good song.
What song do you enjoy playing the most?
Oh, again, depends on the night. Usually, like at the Continental Club, you know, it's never the same set ever.
Right.
I don't even use a set list, because how do you know what an audience needs to hear until you meet them, you know? But if things start getting a little snoozy up there, I like to pull out October, because it has what we call free zones in it. Like, if there's an arrangement, and everybody my A guys and my B guys and my C guys all know roughly this arrangement, but it's like, in this zone, heads up, because nobody knows what's going to happen. And in this zone, heads up really, because we're going to do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then there's a dead stop. And if you're left out in the cold, it's really obvious. And so that one I never get tired of playing.
Well, and of course, you know what your commitment to me is for that song. Oh,
absolutely. I have 2 commitments to you for that song, actually. I'm doing a lyric sheet for you, but also I will be performing that at some unspecified date in the future.
Correct. For my memorial or wake or whatever the hell it ends up being.
Yeah, yeah. Party.
Yes. A celebration of life.
Absolutely.
Because, boy, that's what that song is for me.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing is people say that it's morbid, and it's like, absolutely not. It's embracing. It is all embracing.
Right.
You know?
And on that note, Dave asked, which of your songs has the most meaning for you?
Oh. Wow.
They're asking you for your favorite child, Jon Dee.
No.
You can't like them all equally. You have to have a favorite child. Good luck.
Wow. Okay, ask me the same question again.
Which of your songs has the most meaning to you?
Okay, so literally speaking, it would be Sleep Enough to Dream, because that is straight up reportage. You know, it's not, it comes off like a song, but it's really just a story about what happened, you know? But now, kind of all my songs are that way. Like I remember having this conversation with McMurtry when we were touring over in Europe. And I said, man, I wish I could write like you do. I wish I could come up with these imaginary characters doing imaginary things that never really happened and just set it to music. And he said, oh, I'd like to write like you do, but I just don't think I'd enjoy having to bleed to death every day.
Awesome. And so James.
And so James. Most of my songs, even the ones that are not overtly autobiographical, they're I can't write about things that didn't happen. I write about the things that I've seen and the things I've heard and the things I've done in my life.
Uh-huh.
Wait a minute, is today Andrew's birthday?
Oh, actually, it might be. What in the hell is the date today? The 16th. So is that today? No, I think that's...
No, I think today
Well,
is
I'm
the
not
16th.
sure.
Well, if it is, I'm sending a shout out. I'm sending a shout out to my brother in arms.
Well, and on that note, Alan Fincher asked, how did you hook up with the folks who play in your current band and how are they all doing?
Oh, man.
Jon Dee said it is Andrew's birthday.
Yes. I'm going to ring him up as soon as this is over.
Okay. You know, he
It's being
used to call me
celebrated.
on my birthday from wherever he was in the world. He would be in Europe and he would call me on my birthday to say happy birthday.
Alan, I mean, Andrew's a good man. He's a damn good man. I've watched him grow. You know, the heart of the band, and people out of town don't get this because he doesn't tour. You know, Mike Hardwick just doesn't tour. Or he does, but not for the amount of money I can pay. And I had moved back to Austin with my firstborn, Roy, and I had decided to give up on music. I was hanging up my guns. I'm not going to play anymore. And I was framing houses with this guy named Clinton. And I'm the world's worst carpenter. And if you live in one of the houses that I framed, I'm sorry that the doors don't close right, but what are you going to do? But I had met Mike Hardwick through J.D. Foster. And Foster and Hardwick were good friends. And so Roy went back to New York to be with his mom. And so I was shopping at the H-E-B in the middle of the night. And over in the produce section, I see Mike Hardwick, and I can't place him. And he's like, hey, it's me, Hardwick. And I'm like, oh, yeah, how are you? And we got started talking and various things. And he said, are you playing? And I'm like, no, I don't play anymore. I gave it up. You know, I hung up my guns. I'm not going to. Anyway, he said, well, that's a shame because, you know, I'm doing this session. The guy's got a lot of money. And he was looking for another guitar player on this session. And I told him I didn't know anybody to recommend. But now that I know you're back in town, and I'm like, I don't know, Mike. And he goes, it's $400 a day. And I went, all right, when do we start? And so I quit swinging a hammer and I started working on this record with Mike. In between songs, though, I would start playing songs for him. And he would be like, well, what would happen if you went to an A minor there instead? And finally he was like, we should get together and play. So we started getting together and sitting at his kitchen table and working on songs. And that's all the songs that are on Escape from Monster Island. And the first band had George Reith on bass, Mike Hardwick, and David Green was on drums. Do you remember David Green?
Yep.
El Nino. And then El Nino departed, and we had J.J. Johnson for a while.
Uh-huh.
And the rhythm section of J.J. and George Reith was just phenomenal. I mean, I've been so lucky with my bands. I've gotten to play with so many guys that are so much better than I am. You know, it's just really incredibly lucky. But the current guys, how it came together was Joey had been wanting to play drums with me for a while, and I think he subbed a gig for somebody one time, and I'm like, whoa, can you come back next week? And even though he was still touring off and on with Fastball, he became my regular drummer, and kind of hadn't looked back. And then Mark Andes was playing bass for me.
Right.
And Mark left to go on somebody else's tour, and I'd seen Andrew play with Alejandro a bunch, and I'm like, called him up, and he was like, yeah, sure. And he came over to the house, and we worked on it. And then so you had the core of me and Hardwick, and then you had Andrew, and you have Joey, and I firmly believe it's in the top 10 rock and roll bands in America. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That band can play anything in front of anyone.
Right.
You know, the best part about this band is its understanding of dynamics. Like, when it's big, and when it's small, you can hear a pin drop.
Right.
You know, and that's what I love. You know, that's what I love is climbing the ladder and coming back down. You know, like that.
Well, I know we didn't even know how we were going to fill up an hour, and it's already been an hour, but we're not done.
Okay.
We got a couple more minutes.
right.
If people want to donate directly to you, Jon Dee, what are they using? Is it?
They can donate to me via PayPal.
Okay.
And it goes to Jon Dee Graham at gmail.com. Just my name at gmail.com. And PayPal is appreciated.
And I also have a Venmo and a PayPal up there that are tips for the show. And so if they make donations to that email or that Venmo or PayPal, you get 50% of whatever comes in on that address.
How fair of you.
So, yeah.
So are there any questions that we missed?
Well, let me see what else we had. Jack Williams was on here, and he said, I have to scoot. I'll look for a tip jar in a bit. Hello from Water Valley, Mississippi, though.
Oh,
Those shows you played upstairs in our little grocery were wonderful. I hope you'll stop again the next time you get to make the run from the road back home.
Yes. That's a whole story in itself. But that makes me smile. Water Valley is there's no explaining it. It's it's this little tiny farming community that when people get too tired of the hip factor in Oxford, Mississippi, they move to Water Valley. And so it's like all these really smart, really talented, really forward-thinking people that live in this little tiny farming community. It's pretty great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And how cool, somebody tuning in from Mississippi.
See, that's the thing. People know, they know that if they write me at the Continental Club, because I've gotten letters there hundreds of times. It's like, if you want to get in touch with me, go through the Continental. It'll get to me eventually, you know?
I think probably does anybody else have any questions or want to say something to Jon Dee before we wrap this up? Otherwise, would you like to close the show with a song?
Yes.
Like it?
Yes. Let's see. I think this is highly appropriate. Everywhere that I've been, everyone that I have met, every sun that rose and set, it brought me to you. That's right, it brought me to you. Every word that I have heard, every word that I have said, every thought bouncing round my head, it brought me to you. That's right, it brought me to you. So long, so hard, so good, so far. Every mistake I have made, every single mistake I've made, let me repeat. All the mistakes I've made, they brought me here to you. That's right, they brought me here to you. Yeah, they brought me here to you. Yes, they brought me here to you.
Yay!
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Jon Dee, for joining me for this. And I'm hoping, you know, we're doing this every other week through the end of the year. And I'm having second thoughts about doing it every other week. I may, in fact, start doing it every week. I'm not certain yet, but there are so many people I want to get on here that it's killing me.
Yeah, you have a bottomless bag of folks.
Yes, and I'm already scheduled through the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, through December 30th. And so for sure, I want to get you back next year. And this is something that may continue even once we're open again and things are back to normal. It'll be just one more tool in our arsenal.
Absolutely. We can use every sharp stick we can find.
That's right. And so thank you so much for joining us. And I really appreciate you playing a song at the end. So good to hear you.
It's
good and good to see you. You look good.
I'm holding up okay.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
And thank you to all of you for joining in and for your questions and for your comments. Much appreciated. And I'll be back in 2 weeks with Casper Rawls. The great Casper Rawls will be with us. And he'll tell stories about James Burton and Buck Owens and all of his other famous friends, I'm sure.
Oh, hell yes. Oh, hell yes.
And we do have coming up, we're also going to be having Ryan Bingham
Nice.
Rosie Flores and Mike
Ah.
Flanagan and Sue Foley are going to do one together. Yeah, we've kind of, and Dave Alvin. Yeah, we've kind of stacked the deck on these.
Yeah, I was gonna say, couldn't you find anybody?
No, I just found some people that weren't real busy, not doing much of anything. You know, Ryan actually, he when he texted me back, he said, "Oh hell yeah, I want to do that. I'm in Wyoming right now working on a show, Yellowstone. You know,
Yeah,
it's like only
yeah.
the best show on TV." And
That's
he, of
what I
course,
hear.
doesn't ever mention Yellowstone. He just goes, "I'm up in Montana working on or Wyoming working on a show."
Yeah, just working on a show. It's funny. Do you watch The Leftovers at all? Did you watch that?
I saw your post.
It was so hilarious because we were like going, Gretchen said, wait a minute, that park ranger was Ray Washam. And I'm like, no, I mean, he does act. And she's like, winds it back and it's, I'll be goddamn. It's
Well,
Ray
he
Washam.
doesn't act, but it was him.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Diane, I love you.
Hey, Jon Dee. Love you, babe. Take care.
Bye.
Stay healthy.
I will, you too.
Y'all were fun, and thank you so much for being with us. And this show will be uploaded to all of our Facebook pages, the Continental Club Gallery, Sea Boy's Heart and Soul. It'll also be on our it'll be on the Continental Club YouTube channel, which is Continental Club ATX, all one word. If you separate it, you're going to get a whole bunch of videos that have nothing to do with this. So Continental Club ATX, and take care. See you in a couple weeks.
See you guys.